Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I came across a few news stories I'm going to talk about with you guys in this reloading chat. And it's about here in Texas. Texas about to change laws or implement measures because of the hog apocalypse, as they're calling it. And they're talking about actually doing large-scale baiting and poisoning to deal with the situation. And it's interesting because you have a lot of people who are chiming in. I've seen in comments and groups, because it's about 6 different news stories. Some of the comments below the news stories is clearly people who don't understand the situation. They don't know the laws. They don't understand anything about hog hunting or what's going on here in Texas. I am originally a Texas country boy. I've had to deal with this problem personally. I've had to wipe these out on family land before myself. And I can honestly say it's insanely difficult to resolve this problem. Even trying to hunt them out there, the reason that more of them are not killed, the hunters simply get bored. Meaning, I don't know, most hog hunters don't feel like killing more than 30 or 40 of them in a year. I mean, that would be someone who really, really, really enjoys doing it. By that point, you just get tired. So they can't even put a dent in the population. And you see some people are saying things like, well, they just need to raise the hunting limits. There are no hunting limits. The hog hunting season in Texas is 365 days a year. There's no license required, and there's no limit on how many you can kill. All right, you can legally kill 100 hogs every day, 365 days a year, and there's no criminal penalty. You're breaking no laws by doing so. You don't need a hunting license to do that. That still hasn't been enough to deal with the problem. There just aren't enough people who enjoy doing it to fix the problem. That's part of the problem that we have. Now, as far as the baiting and the poisoning, I don't think this is a good idea. I know some of the experts who are recommending it are saying, well, we're using a very low toxicity poison, so it won't have carryover so much into the meat. But here's the thing. You're going to see a lot of wildlife. You're possibly going to see livestock get into whatever they're baiting them with. You're definitely going to see other animals eat whatever they're going to bait these hogs with. I can assure you other animals out there are going to eat it that they're not trying to kill. Scavengers are going to get poisoned, very possibly eating these dead hogs. All right, this is really going to be an ecological nightmare. And now, it could be argued that the hogs themselves are an ecological nightmare because the damage that they cause is enormous. They cause $50 million of damage a year in Texas just to ranches and farms. Again, I know firsthand. Again, they're very invasive, very aggressive, destructive species. They're not indigenous to Texas. They're very smart and they breed fast. All right, they breed very, very fast, and they're breeding as an invasive species faster than people can kill them. And it is hard to wipe them out. Like, for example, the most I've ever killed in one time, years ago, I got lucky out in one of our cow pastures. About 20 to 25 of them were out in the pasture. All right, they were 400 yards from the nearest tree line, so they had a long way to run. So I pulled up and set up with a match AR, loaded with a bunch of 69 grain Sierra Match Kings, and I started picking them off down the road. But I only got 8 of them before the rest got to the tree line and scattered. All right, and that's the most I've ever been able to get at one time. And that didn't even put a dent in the problem. I mean, my cousins would come out and hunt them. We would hunt them. My dad would hunt them. We would just hunt the hell out of them and kill them and kill them and kill them. And it wasn't enough. They would still destroy fence. They would still tear stuff up. And honestly, they don't even taste good. I know some people are like, well, I eat feral hog. I'm like, okay, more power to you. But if you can eat that nasty shit, by all means, do so. But even the people who enjoy eating them will admit not all of them are edible. You only really eat the small ones. You definitely don't eat the fully grown males. They're just not edible. So kind of the problem we've run into, you see people saying, well, they should just, round them up and hunt them and feed them to the poor and the homeless. And I'm like, again, this is not an animal that's particularly edible. Again, the small ones are, but your problem is the big ones. The ones that have the most meat, most people really can't, choke it down. I mean, if you're really hungry, you could. I guess if you were starving. But again, this is not something you're going to think of as a good food animal. They tend to have things like parasites, worms. They taste pretty bad, and then your issue is how do you kill these things out in wild and large scale and get the food safely to, poor people. It's you're talking about a lot of logistics and work to where it actually would probably be cheaper to just buy food for the homeless and go through all this effort. But the issue you run into, the poisoning is really going to be a problem. There aren't enough people out hunting them to make a big enough dent in the population to slow the population growth. So even right now, and it's been this way pretty much forever, because they're an invasive species, you can hunt them year round with no hunting license. You just go out and shoot them as long as you have the property owner's permission. The problem they're running into is a lot of property owners, because some people like to go hunt hogs, they charge them to go out there. This is the sort of stuff that really makes it a problem. It really makes it a problem. And I'm going to say, if you really want to deal with this situation, you're going to have to deal with it using wider scale hunting than we're doing. I don't think the poisoning thing is going to be good ecologically. What I think the most viable solution is someone who has hunted these, who has had family property that had big problems with them. What you really need to do is hunter incentives. We used to have here in Texas, in my lifetime when I was a child, and my dad used to do this and collect money on them. A lot of the predators in cattle country, you were paid to turn in ears. All right, you were paid to do so. And there were different prices on, coyotes, cougars, bobcats, so that you hunted predators in the cattle country areas, areas that were mostly ranches. And you turned them in there, and you got paid for that. They really need to do that with the hogs. To give there an incentive, they need to put some stuff out there saying, look, property owners, you can allow people to come hunt, but don't charge them for it. This is an invasive species we need to wipe out. If you're charging people to hunt them, this is not giving them incentives to do so. So maybe they need to start putting a bounty on them. That way there will be people who really go out and make a serious endeavor out of it. If you start putting a price tag on it, I don't know, $30, $50 per kill, you're going to have people who are going to go out and kill a ton of these. You're going to have people who, as a profession, will go out and kill 20, 30, 40 hogs every single week. All right? And if you have, a couple thousand people do that, become full-time hog hunters, let's see, we have about 2.5 million of them right now that they need to wipe out. The population is growing. That's the estimate, that there's 2.5 million of this now invasive species in the state of Texas. You're really going to have probably 5,000 people who take this up as a full-time job, who kill about 50 of these things every week. That'll probably get rid of your problem. Let me think about the math in my head. 5,000 times 50. 50,000. That's about 250,000 hogs killed per week. Yeah, that might sort your problem out. But you're going to have some incentives to do that. And I know people are saying, well, that's a lot of money, but you've got to factor in, okay, let's say you put a $30 bounty or a $25 bounty on each one. They cost $50 million a year in damages to the state, to actual agriculture. This will pay for itself eventually, if people are willing to come up with the money to do it. So you figure at $25 a kill, you kill 1 million of them, that's 25 million. But that's half the damage they cause every year. You kill 2 million of them, you've reached their annual thing, and so you need about 50% more than that. So yeah, you're looking at about $62 million spent to wipe out a nuisance that causes 50 million in damages every year. That might be what people need to do. There needs to be some financial incentive, and I know that sounds expensive, but you've got to think about the long-term loss to agriculture as a result of this species. And you've got to do it in a way that isn't destructive to the local ecology, to the local wildlife, to the livestock and everything else. And I think the poisoning is going to be a bad way to do that. Furthermore, the poisoning is going to deter hunters from doing it because hunters are going to be worried about poisoned animals. A lot of hunters do hunt them because they want to eat some of them. They'll kill a bunch and they'll pick the ones they want to eat that are their best ones out of there to go butcher and put in the freezer. It's going to deter a lot of the hunters who do it because they want meat, because then they're going to be worried about poisoned animals. So I think this is really the wrong approach for something like this. Just my 2 cents on it. I think changing the laws to where you tell landowners they can allow people to hunt, but you can't charge them to hunt, and then we put a bounty on the hogs. And I think probably about $25 would be reasonable, because that's close to your annual damages. That's a little over your annual damages to wipe out the entire population of them in the state of Texas. And if you wanted to make it less than that, you could drop it to $20. I think $25 would be better, but if they put a $20 bounty, $20 bounty on hogs, there are people who would go out and do it full time. There are people who go out and hog hunt full time. and that would resolve your problem. And that, I think at $20, that would be right about your annual cost to do it, to take care of it. I think that's a better solution. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.